Hi everyone, my name is Elisa Emasanas from BSED 2 Math. My topic for today is all about foundation of curriculum. So, let's begin. Foundation curriculum are built at shooting foundation as forces that can think of foundation as force that act on our influence individuals who can respond when creating curriculums, and they are five major functions that we are explored as well. Let's talk about the foundation under the curriculum. Under the curriculum foundation, first one we have philosophical foundation of curriculum, and number two is the historical foundation of curriculum, and number three is the psychological foundation of curriculum. The number four is the sociological foundation of curriculum, and lastly, the legal foundation of curriculum. We're probably all familiar with the three main branches of philosophy. The metaphysics, it deals with reality, and the epistemology, it deals with knowledge, and lastly, the axiology, it deals with values. Although the metaphysics deals with reality, is the real epistemology deals with knowledge and how we understand and know things, and axiology deals with values. So foundation, in terms of looking all the philosophical foundation of curriculum, what I want to really think about is vacuum if we aren't clear about our philosophy. Education, our curriculum in our teaching becomes confirm and become inconsistent philosophy proven fine of the starting point for decision making. It gives a design of curriculum of a framework for planning and evaluating curriculum. It helps us deals with our personal system belief. As a future educator always influence institution learning, we're talking about curriculum. We're really looking at educational philosophy, so we want to look at the things to paternalism. And paternalism really when the focus of the curriculum is on classical subject, so that's the life literary analysis, and this theory philosophy of curriculum is the constant. Education is absolutely constant. It's universal, it's heavily subject centered, and it relies on very clearly defined discipline. The context is very logical, organized, and the subject are taught separately. So history is for history, biology is for biology. Things are not mixed together, and learners are regarded kind of as lacking judgment on what should be studied. The next one that we want to think is all about progressivism and its theory and philosophy of education focus on the learner's interest. It looked at human problems and human affairs. The 1920s and the 1930s, where the focus was on now problem solving inquiry, and it was felt that learning should be include a cooperative and self-discipline. So when you hear people using terms like self-directed, progressive point of view is very interdisciplinary. A directive role is disseminating information. Position is very reflective when people say that is the standard. Learners' interest, it look at human problem and human integrative, that they're interactive. And when you hear people talking about that, the philosophy which is built upon. System is a widespread implementation of competence-based programs and standardized testing excuse. Essentialism is often behind the tax on education from groups, so that students aren't learners What we think is the kind of for essentialism is coming in our essential public. That is the kind of for essentialism is coming in our directive role as disseminating information to position is reflective when people say that is standards lowering our standards to let this see others in students in this viewpoint that short of grounded in essentialism. Those all came into development of curriculum through these values of entire generation. It promotes social economic. It really looks at learning being at the forefront of remaking a society and the present and the future trends and issue of national and international philosophy. We'll look at this reconstruction or ISM. That is the kind of word essentialism is coming into what we think they should be learning. That is it on education from media and other group standards. So let's proceed to the historical foundation of the curriculum. Why we need to study the history. Did you know exploring the historical foundation of curriculum can promote a sense of freedom and encourage educational reform? The keywords in psychological foundation of curriculum, the role of the historical of curriculum in the development of curriculum. The history of curriculum is to guide the future plans in the future curriculum, and the methods of teaching and the techniques of the curriculums. Because history, foundation of curriculum, has a force that influence the minds of curriculum developments. In this way, they affect the content and structure of curriculum. Let's talk about Franklin Bobbitt. He has presented curriculum as a science that emphasizes on students' need. Bobbitt formulated 5 steps in curriculum making. Letter A is analysis of human experience. Letter B is job analysis. Letter C is deriving objects. Letter D is selecting objectives. And letter E is planning in detail. Step 1 is dealt with separating the broad range of human experience into major fields. That's why he became the famous developing the modern concept of objective analysis and forerunner of job and task analysis. Bobbitt advocates the practice of analyzing activities involved in discrete academic subjects and using that analysis to establish specific teaching objectives. So let's moving on in psychological foundation of the curriculum. What is the role of psychological foundation in curriculum? Did you know psychological foundation is based on the individual differences? Every student has its own unique personality and they have differences in their learning and skills. They are different in nature, so they can't be treated alike in teaching, learning process. Some may be fast learner while other is slow. Psychological foundation is the scientific study of human behavior. It gives insight into child development, learning, inquiry techniques, educational objectives, student characteristics, learning process, teaching methods, and evaluation procedures. Since we know psychology is the scientific study of mental function and behavior including perception, cognition, behavior, emotion, personality, and interpersonal relationship. There are 3 majors of theories of learning classified into 3 groups. Number 1 is behaviorist theories. It is focuses stimulus response and reinforcers. It studies conditioning, modifying, and shaping behavior through reinforcement and rewards. Number two is cognitive theories. It focuses information processing in relation to the total environment, and it studies development stages, understanding multiple forms of intelligence, problem solving, critical thinking, and creativity. And number three is phenomenological and humanist theories, and it is focused on the whole child and their social, psychological, and cognitive development. It is a study focused on human needs, attitude, feelings, and self-awareness. So let's moving on to the sociological foundation of curriculum. The sociological foundation refers to issues from society that have influence on curriculum. Since the school exists with given society and fact that products of the school, the graduates go back into the society and makes latter an inevitable determinant of the curriculum. So let's talk about the issue from society. The issue from society, including groups and institutions in the culture and their contribution to education. It refers to issues from society that have an influence on curriculum. There are many aspects of society that need consideration in curriculum making. Since human relationships are very complex, sociology of education helps teachers to be aware of certain outcomes of group behavior and to understand that attitude, values, and beliefs of those around them, hence enhancing effective teaching and learning process. The sociological aspect of the curriculum affects the development of the curriculum in the sense that there are certain factors which intervene in the curriculum development process due to cultural beliefs, societal expectation, values, norms, and traditions emanating from the background of stakeholders. Why sociological foundation of curriculum is important in education? It helps in understanding the cultural, economic, social, and political trends in relation to formal and informal agency of education. Educational sociology aims to develop a curriculum that will adequately socialize each individual students. So let's move on to the legal foundation of the curriculum. Legal deriving from or founded in law, created by construction of the law. So let's tackle about the major law which stipulate the current Philippine educational system. In 1987 Constitution, Article 14, Educational Science and Technology, Arts, Culture, and Sports. So quality educational, complete adequate, free public education, and scholarships. School of Constitution, study of values, optional religious, and suspensions. So let's talk about the Presidential Decree Number 6 of Educational Development, Decree of 1972. The goals of educational system, objectives of educational system, 10-year program to attain the objectives. Educational projects to attain objectives. Letter A is management study of the DEC. Letter B is improvement of secondary schools, which includes service, facilities, equipment, and curriculum. And letter C is curriculum and staff development, mathematics and science teaching. Letter D is expansion of agricultural, secondary, and higher educational programs. Goals is number 1, achieve and maintain an accelerating rate of economic development and social progress. Number 2 is assure the maximum participation of all people in the attainment and employment of such growth. And number 3, to achieve and strengthen national and unity and consciousness and preserve, develop, and promote desirable culture, moral, and spiritual values in challenging world. Aims to provide a broad general education that will assist each individual in the particular. Number 1 is attain his potential as human beings. Number 2, enhance the range and quality of individual and by group participation in the basic function of society. Number 3, acquire essential education foundation of his development into productive and versatile citizen. Provide for a broad general education that will assist each individual in the peculiar ecology of his own society. 2. Train nation manpower of middle-level skills required for nation development. Develop the profession that will provide leadership for the nation in the advance of knowledge of improving the quality of human life and response effectively for changing needs and condition of nation through a system education planning and evaluation. So let's moving on to the rights and duties of parents in the education of children. Let's talk about the rights. Right to organize themselves and or with teachers for discussion betterment of the school. Number 2, right to success to any official record concerning the children who are under the parental responsibility. Let's talk about the duties. Number 1 is duty to help carry out educational objectives in accordance with national goals. Number 2, duty to enable their children to obtain elementary education and shall strive to enable them to obtain secondary or higher education in the pursuance of the right formation of the youth. Number 3 is duty to cooperate with the school in the implementation of the school programs. So let's tackle about the rights and duties of students. Rights. Number 1, right to proceed primary through implementation, introduction, relevant quality education in line with national development goals conducive to their full development as a person with human dignity. Number 2, right to free choose their field of study, subject, and existing course train up to graduation except in case of academic deficiency of disciplinary regulations. Number 3 is right to school guidance and counseling services. So let's talk about the duties. Number 1, duties to exert his utmost to develop his potentialities. Number 2, duty uphold academic integrity of the school. Number 3, duty to promote the peace and tranquility of the school. Number 4, duty to participate actively in civic affairs and in the promotion of general welfare. Number 5, duty to exert his right responsibly. So let's move on to Executive Order Number 117 S 1987, Reorganization of DEX. The department shall be responsible for the formulation, planning, implementation, and coordination of policies, plans, programs, and projects in the areas of formal and non-formal education at all levels: elementary, secondary, higher technical, vocational, non-formal, sports, and culture. So let's proceed to the RA 7722, Higher Education of Act 1994, an act creating the Commission on Higher Education. RA 7796, an act creating the Technical Education and Skills Development Authority of 1994. An act creating the Technical Education and Skills Development of Authority. RA 9155, an act instituting a framework of governance for basic education, establishing authority and accountability, renaming the Department of Education, Culture, and Sports as the Department of Education and for other purposes. Authored by former Senator Tessie Aquino, Huerta Tech Department of Education, Culture, and Sports was renamed DepEd. Governance of basic education start as national level but is in the regional division district at school level wherein the policies and principles are translated into project, programs, and service developed offered to fit local needs. Coverage of public school teachers, eligibility, letter A is elementary school teachers. Under the elementary school teachers, the BE-Ed graduates and the PPET or LET passers. Letter B is the secondary school's teachers. Under the secondary school's teachers, number 1 is the BSED graduate or bachelor's degree, and number 2 is 18 units in major subject, 18 units of professional educational subject, number 3 is the PBET or LET passer. So let's tackle about the rights of teachers. Number 1 is right to be informed of the changes in writing. Number 2 is right to full access to evidence in case. Number 3 is the right to defend himself and defend by representative of his choice. Number 4 is right to appeal to clearly designated authorities. And number 5, lastly, right for a married couple, both of whom are school teachers, to be employed in the same locality wherever possible. Teachers' organization. Number 1, freedom to organize. Number 2 is prohibition of discrimination against teachers. Let's move on to the Philippine to Educational Practice and Other Legal Basis of Education. Act Number 74, January 1, 1901, laid the foundation of Philippine public school system and made English as the language of instruction. Established in the Philippine Normal School and Trade School in Manila and an agricultural school in Negros. RA 476, June 18, 1949, it converted the Philippine Normal School into a teacher college and offered courses leading to Bachelor of Science in Elementary Education and Master of Arts in Education. RA 7168, December 26, 1991, converted the Philippine Normal School into a university. RA 6655, also known as the Free Public Secondary Education Act of 1988. Public secondary schools were nationalized and they were reclassified by source of funding and curriculum type. So, let's talk about Text Order Number 38, 1994, and SAT is required for all senior high school students. Text Number 603 required that every school division should organize special classes for children with special needs. RA 5250 and 1960s provided a 10-year teacher education program in special education for teaching of the gifted, mentally retarded, and those with behavioral problems. Only 2 schools offered undergraduate in SPED of COED and CEU. RA 7686 being paid in OJTs in private industry, and RA 7687 scholarship program for careers in science and technology. PD 146 required all high school graduates seeking admission to post-secondary degrees necessitating a minimum of 4 years study to pass a national entrance examination. RA 7731 abolished the NCEE to give the marginalized sector greater access to college education. RA 7743 created the Center of Excellence in Teacher Education. RA 7791 stretched the school year from 185 to 200 days. RA 1265 made the observance of the flag ceremony compulsory. RA 7836, an act professionalizing the teaching profession, established the leisure examination for teachers. RA 10157, Kindergarten Education Act, provides the inclusion of kindergarten level into basic education program. It must aid that children must undergo kindergarten before entering grade 1. Senate Bill 3286 Enhanced Basic Education Act of 2012, an addition of 2 years in the basic education. Based on my researches, all the foundation of curriculum we must be applied of those when we were teaching. Pagkakaalam ko po sa ating natalakay ngayon, lahat ng mga bata ay may iba't ibang mga kakayahan at layunin sa kanilang mga sarili. At dito po tayo babase sa ating foundation of curriculum para ma-apply po natin ito sa ating sarili. At yun lamang po. Salamat.